Hi guys, say hi from London, and this is Rhys, and he just made a movie which is released worldwide, and you guys in Hong Kong can see it as well. It's a very much a different way of looking at what afterwards of Winnie-the-Pooh. So maybe we just go back to we had that chat earlier, right?
Yeah.
And Rhys, thanks very much first.
Yeah, it's all right. Thanks so much
for your time.
Yeah.
And just tell me, why do you want to make movies? I mean, on the movie side. I mean, like, what does movie making mean to you?
Yeah, so it's I have quite a kind of deep passion for filmmaking, and particularly like the horror genre. I've been doing it now for not too long, actually, like 2.5, 3 years. I was in a different industry before, but I've always been obsessed with film. Every single horror film which comes out, I go and watch it. I've seen like the new Scream like 3 times, for example.
Right.
And that kind of brought me into kind of film, and I then really wanted to start like directing, because I thought, okay, I could do some really interesting stuff here.
So when you enjoy watching, I do too, the horror films.
Yeah.
You started as a kid, right? I mean, like when very young.
Yeah.
I like that genre of movies.
Yeah, really young, like too young. I started about probably about 7 or 8. I'd kind of sneak the kind of horror films from my parents and then go and watch them. And I remember like Chucky, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, they were like the ones I grew up in, and I was terrified of both of them. I remember thinking Leatherface, who's in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the guy with like the skinned face. I thought he's going to come from Texas in the US, fly all the way over to the UK, and then come in my bedroom and just hack me up with a chainsaw. So
right. I don't know about you, but a lot of people say, "Oh, this is so gross," but at the same time, they get excited, they enjoy it, they know they're not real, right? Because the real world is very different.
Yeah.
So they were, in a way, it's like in your fantasy. It's like another kind of dream.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's entertaining, I would say.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So with Pooh, it's very like popcorn horror in a way. Like we're embracing the fantasy side of it, and not trying to keep it too real. So that's why anyone who goes to see it, you're supposed to just have fun, like embrace the like silly side of it. It's not meant to be too serious. So don't go in there wanting like Halloween, for example. It's more on the side of like Chucky.
Right. Oh, that comes to, bring me to the next question. Because, horror movies aside, the excitement and entertainment of that genre, we all once were children, right? So when we were growing up, we had this Peter Pan, Lion King, Snow White, what have you, right?
Yeah.
And Thomas the Tank Engine, and also, of course, Winnie-the-Pooh. So when you saw Winnie-the-Pooh, when you were very young, what do you think of it?
Oh, I loved it. Like when I was a kid, I was a big kind of Disney fan. I loved, Lion King, Aladdin, Pocahontas, Mulan. They were all like some of my favorite ones. And yeah, Winnie-the-Pooh was one of the kind of cartoons which I was just kind of obsessed with, and I loved it. That was when I was really young, probably like 5 to 7, I'd say, something in that sort of range. And it kind of stuck with me. Like all of these characters are stuck with me until I'm an adult now. And there's almost this element of like nostalgia with it. So when I realised, he was available in the public domain, that nostalgic element came out of me, and I was like, that would be amazing to like twist him and change him into like the genre which I love. And hence, now we have Winnie-the-Pooh.
I don't know. I tell you, because I was telling my kid when he was like 5 or maybe even 3. Yeah. Every night I was reading Winnie-the-Pooh. Now, those were the questions he asked, like, what were these animals doing? Like, this is a tiger, or is a tiger is a tiger? Why would the tiger and the pig and the bear, they all live together?
Yeah.
Did it come to your mind that, like, are they stuffed animals or are they real animals? What's going on with Christopher Robin?
Yeah, they're the kind of exact questions which went through my head when I thought about twisting this into a horror. And one of the questions was, why have you got this group of all differing animals kind of interacting together in the same kind of woodland space in the UK, because there's no tigers in the UK. So there was that question, and also it was like, how are they speaking? Because they're communicating. It's like they can talk, and they were doing how they kind of moved and how they looked on the illustrations. They were kind of like standing upright, they were kind of interacting and grabbing things, and then it kind of just like, there was a bit of a spark there, and I thought, it kind of seems like they're half human. It's like they're half these animals, like the tiger and the bear, and then they're half human because they've got human speech, and they're grabbing things, and then that's what I really went with. And I thought, okay, that's like, it starts to all make sense to me, why they're in these woods, and hence why I've made them kind of like these hybrids, because it fit that original story, and also it works so well for horror, because later on, as they kind of grow up and they become adults, they've got thumbs now, so they've got human hands, so they can grab like machetes and hammers and chains, and they can smash people over the head with them.
Rhys, did you read the original Pooh that was not like modified by Disney?
Yeah, so
how do you compare the two?
So yeah, that was one of the really key things I had to do, is with the source material, the only one which is in the public domain was the
original one,
yeah,
the non-Disney one.
Yeah, the 1926 one. So that's all I could essentially use to kind of draw from and take inspiration from in order to create these like alternative versions of them, because everything which kind of came after that point is Disney's copyright, and it's their branding, their IP. So that includes things like, you know, his red shirt, the way he talks, because that was invented by them. So there's certain like tone he has, some of his phrases like "oh bother," like I can't really use that. So I had to kind of be mindful that all of those extra elements and the that kind of interpretation they did isn't feeding in to my view of it. So in order to do that, I kind of cleared my mind as much as I could of everything I knew of Winnie-the-Pooh, and then I got that 1926 book, opened it up, read through it, and saw, you know, what's in here, what's not, and then they were the elements I could kind of note down and then build up my kind of version of my interpretation of him. So like, for example, Tigger is kind of like a fan favourite, and a lot of people, when they go in to see this, they might be expecting him, but you can't actually use him because he's not in the public domain, because he wasn't in that original book, hence why it's characters like Pooh and Piglet.
In fact, I mean, I'm talking about not the horror, not the new creation of yours, Rhys. I'm talking about the difference between the 1926 books and what happened afterwards with the cartoons. I would say this is a great place that you are doing it, because whatever Disney did, it made it more American, if you know what I mean. Because I think the original, the 1926 one, is very English. Very English, the 100 Acre Wood, the Christopher Robin, just the name of the guy, the boy, it's very English, and everything, like, you don't need the bear to wear a t-shirt. The bear doesn't have to wear anything, right? Because it's like what we used to do with the teddy bears. It's just a teddy bear. Right? So making this movie with an English crew in the middle of London. I mean, I think it was the best way to do it. That's my opinion. We did kind of look at the original source material and see, you know, Pooh had no clothes then, but that's something we didn't want to put on our one. We didn't want the actor to be running around. But your checker shirt is also red, kind of red, right?
That actually was an accident. That we kind of had someone who's doing the costume design, and then when I realised, we were like halfway through filming, was like, that checkered shirt's actually red, and then we thought, oh no.
It's no problem.
But we thought, oh, okay, it's fine. Like, it is a completely different style. It's kind of like the typical kind of like lumberjack style, which you sometimes see in like villains and horror icons. So
now maybe we should, if possible, take a break, and you give us a clip of like a few seconds, or then you explain what you were trying to do there.
Yeah, sure. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Eventually, Christopher had to make the hard decision to leave his friends to attend college, to become a doctor, requiring them to fend for themselves once more. Then winter arrived. The nights were deathly cold, the land barren and completely devoid of food. One fateful night, on the brink of starvation, Pooh decided that in order to survive, the group must consume one of their dearest friends. And thus, Eeyore was no more.
So guys, you have seen that clip. I think it's amazing. I would say the sketch is directly connected to the original book, right? It's beautifully done. So what we're trying to do in that, in the opening of the movie, like what we just saw.
Yeah, so that's exactly one of the intentions, was the original source material, which was like the 1926 book. We wanted to like bridge between that and the live action version of the film. So that's why we kind of started in this like fairy tale-y, sketchy manner, which is paying homage to like the original story, but also taking us through this journey and re-establishing some of the lore, because what we've got in the film is very different to kind of what's happened in the original source material. And this was like the perfect opportunity to really like bridge that and take everyone on a bit of a journey before we kind of enter the like modern world and the modern view of what we've got from Winnie-the-Pooh. So what I really wanted to establish here, and some of the differences, was obviously Eeyore's now dead. And
Too bad.
And the idea behind this is, like we were saying before, like I always found it a bit strange that those characters could talk and they had these like humanistic traits to them. So that's why I wanted to kind of embrace them being hybrids and these kind of like anthropomorphic, I hate that word, anthropomorphic, half human, half bear. And I kind of
always very much difficult to,
And I kind of wanted to embrace that element of it. And I viewed it as, you know, Christopher is almost a parent to them in a way. So a bit like there's other stories like that, like we're saying about like Lord of the Flies and such, where the parents go there, they kind of like, the children are very dependent on them, and it's like, what if that was taken away? And that's what happens in this story. Christopher kind of come across them in the woods. He was like looking after them, feeding them, nurturing them, and he became almost their parent. And then one day he had to like carry on with the rest of his life and go away, go to college, and then that kind of created a big change in their society and, you know, how they were living really, because they no longer had a kind of source of food and love which they once had. So when he left, things started getting really, really bad, and as they were getting bad, things just got worse and worse. And eventually, when we got into kind of winter, which is, you know, always associated with being cold, dead, not much
and hungry.
And hunger, yeah, exactly. That's when they kind of reached their breaking point, and their breaking point drove them to, you know, eat one of their friends. And that obviously had this like humongous mental impact on them, and then warped them into these other kind of creatures, and like warped their mentality into just hating humanity, and because that's where their resentment's going, that's who they're blaming for what happened. And yeah, I kind of likened it to like a pet. Like if you had a pet, and you know, like a dog or a cat, and you loved it, looked after it, and then you just dropped it into the woods and left it and drove off, you know, what would happen to them? Like, they have this urge to survive, like they have this instinct. Ultimately they're going to become more feral and more vicious, and that's exactly what's happened here. And then we kind of follow the story. Then Christopher's come back and he's seen how feral they've actually become.
Yeah, I think we always, there's a message that I personally think that worth taking from a movie that's pure entertainment. That we should not take it too seriously, because people say, you ruined my dreams. No, I think this is very, very much a light comedy, horror, and a lot of laughter actually, a lot of fun, right? But what I'm saying is that abandonment is a tragedy. Don't leave the people, your loved ones, alone. You have to spend time with them, because once you do that, and then something will change the way that you don't want it, right?
So that's the general theme of it. But when you go and see it, this whole film is intended to just be like popcorn horror, like fun. Go there to have a good time. It's not meant to be, you know, taken too seriously. Laugh is meant to be laughed at. So,
but it was very smoothly done with such a budget. I think it was a miracle, and it was some kind of magic. And I highly recommend that now that it's released in the UK, and it will be, as we speak, released in Hong Kong, then everybody should go and see it. Now, this has been a great success. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
And where do you go from here?
So we obviously didn't have like a huge budget for what we were doing on the first one.
But you got a bigger one on the next one.
Yes, exactly. But we have more in the next one, and I'm super excited about that because that kind of opens up so many possibilities. And we're going to be introducing a lot more elements which people really want, and expanding on the lore more, just building out this universe more. So yeah, I'm going to be hard at work on that for like the next 5 months, I think.
Fantastic. So
thank you so much.
All my best wishes, and guys, go and take a look. You would enjoy it. Okay.
Thank you.
That's all for now. Bye bye.